Okay. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you for joining live, for joining the recording, however way you're doing it. We're going to start with 2 blocks today. We're going to bring 1 block to the back of the mat. I like it on its second height, in the direction that your spine would be when you come to lay down. And then for this second block, I like to go the same height. If you have a really flexible spine, right, and you know that you back bend a lot and you feel really comfortable with that, you can always flip this down to its first height. If that's not how you describe yourself, you may want to try the highest height, okay? So the idea here is that we're building ourselves a little sort of little T shape so that we can start to open the spine. So when you come to lay down, this first block, this is going to land on your rib cage, or your thoracic region of your spine. So the edge of this block is coming to the rib cage, not the lower spine, right? We're not accentuating the lumbar spine. And you'll slowly lay down on the blocks. Make sure that this second block catches the back of the head and adjust it so that you feel like your head and your spine are supported, but also opening. And then from here, a lot of folks go straight away with the legs, right? Legs long and wide. If you do this and it feels uncomfortable in your lower spine, your low back, you'll bend your knees, plant your feet. Find the inner knees to touch and walk the feet out wide. That should take some pressure out of the lower back. If you're at home and you don't have yoga blocks, you can roll up a really thick blanket or a thick towel and lay it in the direction of the spine and still lay down with just the rib cage and the head supported. It'll be a little bit less of a back bend, but you'll still get the benefits. Take a moment to really situate yourself. Or if you feel like you're falling off to one side or the other, make sure you're positioning yourself right in the center. Let the arms land as they need to land. Allow the eyes to close. And start to trust the support of the blocks just a bit more. And imagine that the full weight of your rib cage could be supported by the block underneath you. And the full weight of your skull could be supported by its block underneath you. Soften the eyes closed. And take a moment to just notice all the sensations in your surroundings, in your environment. Noticing sound, temperature, perhaps texture of the air. Is it humid? Is it dry? Is it somewhere in between? Just take in all the pieces that create your now experience. And then from here, start to breathe deeper than your last breath. And when you breathe deeper, imagine that you could not just fill up the rib cage so that it rises up towards the ceiling, but imagine you could breathe down into the block beneath you And as you exhale, soften just a bit more. Continue to breathe deeper, longer, more circumferential here. As you breathe, don't just breathe into the rib cage because it's sensational and you've got a point of contact. Breathe also into the abdomen. Start to lengthen the exhale out. Continue to breathe in this way. If the back bend starts to feel too intense, you can bring your feet to a hips width distance apart and step them closer to your seat and gently lift the pelvis up so that the spine comes to neutral. So if you need a break from the back bend or you need to come out, lift up the pelvis as if you're lifting into a bridge, but you're really lifting yourself into center. And continue to breathe. If the legs are long or the knees are still bent and knocked in, you will eventually step your feet as close to the seat as possible. Feet are hip width rather. There we go. And then you will slowly lift the pelvis up and forward, finding what would be a bridge if our back was on the mat, but because they're on blocks, it's a more neutralizing space for the spine. And then breathe circumferentially, deep and wide and long. If you'd like to add the arms in, you can reach the arms up and overhead and imagine that the hands and the knees could move in opposite directions. Imagine that you could step down into the center of the foot, so you're not placing just weight into the heel or just into the toes, but there's this central place. If you mapped out 4 corners of the foot, there's a spot right in the middle. Good. Imagine that from crown of the head to the pelvic floor is one long line here. A channel for the breath to move, for energy to move. Imagine that the center of the rib cage could line up with the center of the pelvis. If you're familiar with body mapping, if you've been in class with me for the past couple weeks, you can map the pelvis here from right butt bone to left hip bone, left butt bone to right hip bone, left shoulder blade to right nipple, and left shoulder blade to right nipple, right shoulder blade to left nipple. So you're mapping diagonally, 2 lines meet, and then map the entire torso. Right shoulder blade to left hip bone, left shoulder blade to right hip bone. And if this is your first time hearing about the maps, just choose one, give it time. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, slowly release the pelvis down. Bring the hands down if they're reaching back in space. Choose a side, left or right, to use the arm to sort of give yourself a little break as you roll off the blocks, roll off the blanket if you're on a blanket, and come all the way down into a fetal position. Pat up underneath the head as you need. And take a moment here to breathe into the space where the blocks were, specifically the back of the rib cage. And get a sense here of breathing, like your entire torso were a balloon and the inhale could fill up, right? A balloon fills pretty evenly. And as you exhale, there's a real slow contraction. 3 more breaths here. So imagining the body as a sphere. The maps are quite linear, but they just give us that center so we can imagine ourselves more spherical, taking up more space. And then slowly roll over even more, bring yourself up into tabletop, move your blocks away, move them to the side, move them to the top of your mat. And when you come into tabletop, bring the hands directly underneath the shoulders. If you'd like to measure, you can bring the tips of the middle fingers to touch and then spin on the heels of the palms. And then start to move around in circles. And imagine that you are moving with the shoulders in circles around the wrists and moving in circles with the hips around the knees. And notice which way you're moving, if you're going counterclockwise or clockwise. And see if you can draw the circle even bigger. So that we're not pouring weight into the hands evenly right now. We're rolling around the edges of the palms, the heels of the palms, into the knuckle points. Start to reverse the direction of the circles. And then as we circle around here, see if you can start to press down more with the hands. Imagine you could map the palms now, and you do start to place more weight evenly in the hands. And take one more circle. Bring yourself into center. Pull the navel up and in. Reach the right arm forward. Imagine you were going to shake someone's hand. And then look up towards the right hand and flip the palm up towards the sky. And imagine someone were just going to drop like a present in your hand. And then flip the wrist. So flex into the wrist. And imagine you could push away with the wrist. And then very slowly, middle fingers point down towards the ground. And then you bring the flipped wrist onto the ground. Match up the heel of the right hand with the heel of the left. Good. Navel still in towards the spine. Take an inhale, round the spine, fill up the back of the body, pop a micro bend into the right elbow, and then exhale, come into cow pose. Inhale, round. Exhale, open. Inhaling round. Still micro bend of the elbow, don't hyperextend. Exhale, open, collarbones broad. 3 more times. And here, see if you can map the entire palm of the right hand so that you can find the center of the hand, right? Finding the pinky side edge, mapping it to the thumb side edge, pointer finger side edge to the pinky side edge towards the wrist. Press down into the right hand, pull the navel in, extend the left leg back in space. If this is your first, second, third time flipping your wrist, go easy here. If it feels like too much, you come out and bring the wrist back to neutral. Keep the left toes on the earth and already notice how you're sassing your butt to the right. Bring your left side back online. So draw the left hip to the left, and then land the left heel down, diagonaling the toes up, and imagine you could get more weight into the left foot as you press down into the right hand, the right knee, left hand onto the hip. So with the left hand onto the hip, imagine you could bring it back onto its own side. And notice how you bring the left hip over to its own side. You're drawing the pubic bone forward, and it lifts the heart. So you're almost going in this sort of spherical direction. It's not really traditionally Vashisthasana. We're in this like really nice line. Here we're trying to come around ourselves, and maybe the left arm comes up and overhead. Press down into the right knee, top of the right foot, right hand. Left hip off to its own side, navel towards the spine. Good, very slowly look down, left hand comes down, left knee comes down. Unflip the right wrist, tent onto fingertips, sink the hips back in space. If you'd like to widen the knees out here for child's pose, you may do so. If you'd like to keep the arms active, you may do so. And then breathe circumferentially here. So imagine that you could fill up even more. And imagine yourself a sphere, even a cylinder might be more of an imagination game. When I think sphere, I start to think bubble boy. Slowly come back up into tabletop. Good. Bring hands underneath shoulders. Reach your left arm forward like you're going to shake someone's hand. So strange, that feels like a thing of the past, right? And then flip the palm up towards the sky, like someone's going to drop a present in there, a candy. And imagine you could really rotate the upper arm bone. It should feel quite challenging, right? We don't do that quite often. Good. And then from here, flex into the wrist. Good. And then slowly bring it down and land left wrist on the same line as the right wrist. So you're not moving the right hand, you're moving the left hand. Good. Micro bend into the left elbow and inhale, round the spine. And exhale, open into cow pose. Good. Inhaling round. Exhale, open. Good. Continue in this manner. Notice if your feet are sort of lifting up and off the floor. See if you can press more down into the tops of the feet to get more weight into the legs. Good. It should take a little bit of weight off the wrists. And one more. Good. Pause in your neutral spine, pull your navel in. Extend the right leg back in space. Keep it on its own line. I'm not sure I said that on the other side, but imagine that the left knee and the right foot are on a railroad track. And then take a peek as to where your right toes are and see if you could land the right foot in that same spot. And even here, my butt's already going off to the left. So I'm going to bring my right hand to my right hip. And imagine that I could bring my right hip off to the right, and that starts to arc my spine in a way that feels less linear, right? I'm not staying in one straight line on my mat. I'm going up and over to the left with my heart. Press down into the top of the left foot a little bit more. Good. And if you feel stable, you can bring the right arm up and overhead, and imagine that from pubic bone to sternum, you're arcing. And you're really moving in this three-dimensional spherical space rather than in a linear one. Good. Press more weight into the top of the left foot. Look down, place the right hand down. Unflip the left wrist, tent under fingertips, sink back in space. If you'd like to shake out the wrists, you can shake out the wrists. I find that tenting onto fingertips and sinking back allows them to feel like they're flushing out. And again, really employ your imagination to breathe circumferentially. Breathe into that place where the blocks used to be. Good. From here, slowly walk the hands back. If the knees are quite wide, bring them into hips width distance apart or neutral space. And then come to sit on your shins. And as you sit on your shins, I want you to think about the length from the knee to the top of the foot, so that, or even maybe the toe tips. And then from there, press down into the center of that length to come up to stand on your shins. And then notice, right, this is a habit of mine that I lean so far forward into my knees that I could pick my feet up. I'm going to sink back into the tops of the feet and get a sense of really employing my legs. Good. And then inhale, reach the arms up. Grab onto opposite elbows. When you grab onto opposite elbows, think the center point of the elbow goes into the palm, and then the center point of the elbow goes out into each palm as you lift the arms up. Good. And then from here, sink back into the tops of the feet again, employ the legs. And imagine that you could map the center of the pelvis to the center of the rib cage. Good. From here, don't lose contact with the tops of the feet. Start to lift the pubic bone and lift the sternum, and maybe you lift the gaze. Good. And then imagine the breath could fill everywhere. Circumferential, 360. Good. Take one more inhale. Exhale, slowly release. Bring the hands forward. Press down into the tops of the feet and slowly hover the knees up. Good. As you hover the knees up, you're really pressing down into the tops of the feet, pressing the tops of the feet even more. Lift the hips up. Imagine you're going to downward facing dog, bend into the knees and then roll over the feet to come into down dog. Yeah, if you wear shoes a lot, that might be a little rough, but we've all been home for like 3 months, so we should be barefoot. Bend the knees, lift the hips up and back. Good. And even here, imagine that the center of the pelvis, right, the perineum could line up with the center of the rib cage. And imagine that crown of the head to perineum is a long channel and you can breathe fully, and that's the place you expand outward, circumferentially. Take one more full inhale. Really slowly lift the right leg up towards the sky. As you lift the right leg up towards the sky, go as high as you can go, right? Go to what feels nice, right? Explore space, explore points of contact, explore twirling the ankle, bending the knee. And then start to bend into the left knee and extend out of the right heel. And imagine that the right hip goes off to the right side, just like it did in that Vashisthasana. Flex into the heel and then look at the right toes with your eyes to make sure all 5 right toes point downward. Bend into the left knee. Left hip goes off to the left, right hip goes off to the right. Take an inhale here. Exhale, drive right knee forward through a knee to nose crunch. Pause here, drive the left heel back in space. So again, left heel, right knee are opposites. Good. Inhale, send it back up to where it came from. Exhale, right knee to right arm. Again, draw the left heel back, they're opposites. Inhale, right leg up and back where it came from, bend of the left knee. Exhale, right elbow, left, right knee, left elbow. You guys knew what I was doing. Inhale, lift the right leg back up. And then exhale, drive it through a knee to nose crunch, step it forward. As you step it forward, tent onto fingertips. And go out to 10 and 2 on a clock. And again, make sure that right foot is on its own line, left foot is on its own line. Good. And as you come out wide with the hands, maybe they're wider than your mat. Maybe the right knee finds the right armpit. And if right knee finds right armpit, if it doesn't and it's like, oh, for you, that's exactly how I felt about this for like 3 years. So don't, stress out about that one thing. But if right knee finds right armpit, allow that to be what brings the gaze forward. And as the gaze comes forward, draw the left heel back in space. So imagine right knee forward, left heel back. And then put a little air in your tires, lift the pelvis up, and then broaden the collarbones more. Good. Very slowly drop the left knee down. Keep the left hand where it is. Bring the right arm up and out. And imagine again, you're spherical. So you're not linear. Drawing the right hand back in space. Imagine the pubic bone to the sternum could lift. And maybe you find that same arc up and over to the left. Bring the right arm up and overhead. And imagine that from right hip to right hand, you could arc. Good. Very slowly look down. Lengthen the back leg. Step forward and forward fold at the top of your mat. Feet or hips width distance apart. Nice deep bend of the knees. Take an inhale, come up half the way, broaden the collarbones. Exhale, fold. And inhale, rise all the way up. Sweep the arms up, use the power of the legs. Exhale, hands down through heart center and down by the sides. Inhale, reach the arms up, hook onto opposite thumbs. And then bend the knees and imagine that you're diving up and over into a pool. So bend the knees, dive up and over to the right. And as you dive up and over to the right, heavy into the left foot. And imagine that the right hip goes off to the right and the left hip goes off to the left. Good. And then from here, imagine that the right side of the rib cage comes forward, and maybe there's an arc a little bit more up and over to the right. Good. Slowly release the left hand down. With the left hand, start to look down, round the spine. You're making a nice big circle all the way down towards the ground and fold. Good. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees nice and deep. Step back, plank pose. Good. Bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. Map the palms. So find the index finger knuckle point. Draw a line to the outer edge of the right heel of the palm. And then from the pinky finger knuckle point on the right hand, draw a line to the thumb pad, right? The base of the inside of the palm. And then press down where those two lines intersect. And same with the left hand. Index finger knuckle point to the outer edge of the heel of the left palm. Pinky finger knuckle point to the inner edge of the heel of the left palm. Press down where those two lines meet. Bend the knees a little bit more. Lift your left leg up and high. And then explore with the legs. So if you want to bend the knee, you bend the knee. If you want to twirl the ankle, you twirl the ankle. Feel free to open the hip as you wish. And then start to slowly bring it back online. So start to bend into the right knee. Start to draw the left hip off to the left and flex into the left foot. Look over and down to the left foot. Make sure all 5 left toes are down. Extend the heel back in space even more. Look forward. Draw it through a knee to nose crunch. Pause here. Notice the forward momentum. Draw it back with the right heel. Left knee, right heel, opposite direction. Good. Lift it up and back. And then left knee, left arm. Notice weight distribution in the hands. Right heel back. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Filling up the sphere. Inhale, lift up and back. And exhale, this time draw it forward and step it down. Step it on its own side. So again, you're railroad tracking the feet. You're tenting onto the fingertips in 10 and 2. Yeah, blocks are great underneath the hands, especially if it feels like a lot in the hip. Draw the right hip off onto its own side. Tent onto fingertips, and then maybe left knee, left armpit meets, and the left knee to left armpit is what can draw the pubic bone forward and lift the gaze. And then notice how much forward momentum you have and draw the heel back and lift the pelvis up just a touch higher, right hip off to its right. Nice. Slowly land the right knee down. Press down into the top of the right foot, so don't lose contact with that stability. Keep the right hand where it is, left arm high towards the sky, and then out and open to the left. So again, filling up a little bit more spherically here. We're not linear. And imagine from pubic bone to sternum, you can arc up and over to the right. Maybe left arm comes up and over the left ear. Good. Slowly look down. Land the left hand down, tuck under the back toes. Extend the back leg. And then step forward, forward, fold. Inhale up half the way. And exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. Come all the way up. Use the power of the legs. Sweep up. Exhale, hands into heart center. And down by the sides. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Hook onto your opposite thumbs the non-habitual way. So there's the thing that feels natural and then the thing that feels awkward. Go awkward. Bend into the knees as if you're getting ready to dive into a pool on the left side of the mat. And then do dive up and over to the left side of the mat. And then heavy weight back into the right foot. And as you heavy weight back into the right foot, let the left hip go off to the left, right hip go off to the right. And then imagine you could arc the left side of the rib cage up and over to the right. So there's this spherical sensation of a twist here. Very slowly release the left hand down, look down, sweep the right arm down, bend into the knees, come all the way down. So it's like you're forward folding out to the side. Good. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold, plant the hands, step back, plank pose. Good. In plank pose, start to circle shoulders around wrists. So same thing we did in tabletop, just a little bit more weight here. Not as long. Reverse the direction of your circles and see if you can find the center point in the hands. This should feel like a lot of work, so if you're shaking, it's your muscles having a party. Take one more inhale. Exhale, lower the knees down, come all the way down to the belly. When you come down onto your belly, press down into the tops of the feet. Lift the heart, lift the hands into cobra pose. Lengthen the back of the neck, so look down instead of forward. And imagine here you could breathe circumferentially as well. Good, take one more inhale. Good, as you exhale, make your way to downward facing dog as you wish. So if you'd like to visit child's pose, you visit child's. If you want to push straight up into plank, you push straight up. Make your way as you need, as you wish. Once you land in down dog, pause. So lift the right leg up towards the sky. Again, find the right hip off to its own side, and then pour more weight into the left hand. Bend into the left knee, extend the right leg back in space, and then slowly draw it through a knee to nose crunch, but be really aware of your ability to keep yourself centered. Left heel back, right knee comes forward, and then step it forward. Good, find your right foot onto its own side. Hands come out to 10 and 2 again. Good. So for just a moment, land the back knee down, press into the top of the back foot. So we can go here again, right, reaching up and over, finding your spherical rotation, right, not the sort of tight twisting on the axis, which if you were in class on Friday, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going for more space here. So you can do this with the foot down once more, or you can press into the top of the foot and do it with the foot pointed. And if that's like, no way, Jose, then it's traditional with the foot. So find your version. Good. And imagine that pubic bone to sternum allows you to come off the pelvis and up and over to the left, right arm up and over the ear. Good. Slowly look down. Regardless of what's happening with your back leg, bring your right hand to meet the left. Tent onto fingertips. So you're coming off the mat a touch with the hands. And imagine the right hip could go off to the right, left hip could go off to the left. So the legs are lunging, ideally spherically, but we're coming off to the left, and then lift your pelvis up a little bit higher, broaden the collarbones. Good. From here, walk down the left-hand side of your mat, bend into the left knee, keep the fingertips far forward, broaden the collarbones. Good. From here, lift the left arm high towards the sky. And again, imagine you could find a spherical place. Good, very slowly bring the left hand down. Walk yourself back to the top of your mat. Turn the toes as you go. Step up, forward fold. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, come all the way up. And exhale, hands into heart center and slowly drop to the sides. Inhale, sweep the arms up, hook onto opposite thumbs, dive up and over to the right, heavy the left foot. Not here for long this time, drop the right hand down, look down, and swoop and fold over the legs. Good, inhale up half the way. Exhale, make your way to downward facing dog. So if you want to move through stuff, you move through it, right? But allow yourself to inhabit a spherical space. Good. Down dog. In down dog, lift the left leg high towards the sky. Find all the work we found before. Bend into the standing leg. Left hip off to the left, right hip off to the right. Left toes down towards the ground. From here, draw the left knee in through a knee to nose crunch. Right heel back in space. Stretch in two opposite directions. And then step the left foot on its own side. Good. Tent onto fingertips. Find 10 and 2. Maybe find left knee into the left armpit. Blocks underneath the hand is a great way to go. Good. Broaden collarbones. Find all the ways you can fill up space here. So again, we have options. Back knee down, press into the top foot, and open. Maybe it's not back knee down, but it's top of the foot presses down and the leg lengthens. If that doesn't work for your foot, then you come back into tucked toes. We're just trying to find ways to move around the foot a little bit more. Imagine pubic bone to sternum could arc up and away from the pelvis, the legs. Reach the left arm alongside the ear. Good. Very slowly look down. Left hand comes down to meet the right. You walk your hands off to the right even more. Good. Imagine left hip off to its own side, right hip off to its own side. Tent onto fingertips, broaden collarbones. Good. Slowly walk your hands down the right-hand side of your mat, all the way over towards your right foot. Tent onto fingertips again, broaden collarbones. Lift the pelvis, so you're not dropping the pelvis down. It's not a Cossack squat. Good, and then from here, left hand down, right arm high, twist. And then really slowly, right hand down, walk yourself forward towards the top of the mat. Step forward, forward fold. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. Come all the way up, use the legs, sweep up. Exhale, hands into heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Hook the thumbs, arc up and over to the left. Heavy into the right foot. Drop the left hand and swoop and scoop down and fold. Inhale, up half the way. Exhale, back to downward facing dog, your way. So as you step back, or maybe you lower down into things, inhabit the sphere. Good. Yeah, imagine you could fill up even more. Good. Okay. From here, shift forward to plank pose. And then from here, land the knees down, sink back, and come towards embryo pose. So the knees are gonna stay together. Maybe the hands reach towards the heels and cup the heels. And as the hands cup the heels, the head comes down. And depending on the length of your legs and the length of your torso, maybe you can fit the knees in the eye sockets. And if you hear that and you're like, no, that would never happen, then it just doesn't happen for you. Good. Okay, start to press down into the feet and slowly rise the torso up. And as you rise the torso up, sweep the arms up. And as you sweep the arms up, yeah, we're sitting down. As you sweep the arms up, sink more weight into the tops of the feet. Imagine you could sit down more on the heels, lean back, and maybe you lift the knees just a touch. Maybe you lift the knees a little bit higher, and from the pubic bone to the sternum, you lift. Good. From here, slowly land the knees down if they're lifted. Imagine that you could stretch your hips and your hands in two opposite directions. Plant the hands down. We're going to move really slowly through our salutation at first. So you're going to plant your hands down, and you're either going to come to cow pose. I've seen a lot of you come into your upward facing dog already, so I know that you feel open enough to do this. Or you can come into cow pose or upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. So this will be an inhale into a back bend. Exhale into downward facing dog with bent knees. Good. Inhale, the right foot steps forward. As the right foot steps forward, you sweep the right arm up and back and inhabit that whole spherical space. And it's like you're drawing a really big circle up, over, around. The hand plants, you step forward into a forward fold. Good. Inhale, come all the way up, reach up. Hook the thumbs. Bend into the knees, reach up and over to the right. Good. Right hand comes down, you swoop down and fold. Inhale, come up half the way. Exhale, step the right foot back. It's the left arm that sweeps out, around, a big circle. And then the left hand lands down. Bring your right hand back, step back to down dog. Inhale, come forward, upward facing dog on the balls of the feet or tabletop into cow. Exhale, lay the knees down, lift the hips up and back, embryo pose, hands to heels. Inhale, sweep up, reach the arms up, the torso comes up. No leaning back this time. Exhale, stretch in two opposite directions, hips and hands. Inhale, back bend of your choice, so either cow pose or upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Exhale, bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, the left foot forward, right hand out wide, and you sweep the left arm back, up, over, inhabiting the entire spherical U. Left hand lands down, step forward, forward fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up, hook the thumbs, and exhale, dive up and over to your left. Good. Inhale here. Exhale, left hand down, swoop and fold all the way down. Inhale, up half the way. Exhale, back with the left foot. Right arm reaches out, around, spherical U, sweeping up and over. Hands plant, step back, down dog. Inhale, come forward, upward facing dog or cow pose on knees. Exhale, knees lay down. Hands come back, embryo pose. Inhale, arms reach up, come out of your seed. You grow towards the sky. Exhale, stretch in opposite directions, reach forward. Inhale like a wave, come forward, upward facing dog or cow pose. Exhale, bend knees, come up and back, down dog. Inhale, right foot forward, sweep out, wide, around. Good, take your time here. When you're ready, the hands will come forward, you'll step forward and fold. Inhale, sweep the arms up, come all the way up. Exhale, dive up and over to the right. Take a full inhale here, heavy to left foot. Exhale, right hand comes down, swoop yourself down and fold. Inhale, come up half the way. Exhale, step back, downward facing dog, bend knees. Inhale, come forward, upward facing dog. Exhale, land knees down, come back, embryo, hands to heels. Inhale, grow out of your seed, sweep up, reach up. Exhale, stretch in two opposite directions. Inhale, like a wave, come forward, upward facing dog, heels and heart in opposite directions. Exhale, bend knees, come up and back, down dog. Inhale, left foot forward, right hand out wide, sweep the arm out, around, inhabit a sphere. Take your time, hands plant, step forward, forward fold. Good, inhale, sweep yourself up all the way. Exhale, hook thumbs, dive up and over to the left. Good, inhale here, step into the right foot. Exhale, left hand down, sweep and fold all the way down. Inhale, up half the way. Exhale, hands plant, step back, down dog. Inhale like a wave, forward, upward facing dog or tabletop. Exhale, knees down, embryo, hands to heels. Inhale, grow out of your seed, nice and tall, reach towards the sky. Exhale, hands and hips in opposite directions. Inhale like a wave, come up and forward. Exhale, come up and back, down dog. Inhale, right foot forward, left hand wide, sweep out and around. Good. Hands plant, step forward, forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up, use the legs, hook the thumbs. Exhale, dive up and over to the right. Inhale, fill up the left side of the lungs. Exhale, right hand down, swoop yourself down to the side and fold. Inhale, up half the way. Exhale, plant the hands, step back, bent knee, down dog. Inhale like a wave, tabletop into cow or upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Exhale, knees down, hips lift, sink back, embryo pose, hands to heels. Good. Last side, inhale, grow out of your seat, lift the arms towards the sky. Exhale, hips and hands, opposite directions. Inhale like a wave into your back bend. Exhale, back into a bent knee, down dog. Inhale, left foot forward. Sweep the right hand out wide, left arm comes all the way up, inhabit the circle, the sphere, left hand down, step forward, forward fold. Inhale, come to rise all the way up, hook onto opposite thumbs. Bend into the knees, dive up and over. Inhale, heavy the right foot, breathe into the left side, right side of the lungs. Left hand down, sweep all the way down, fold over the legs. Inhale, up half the way. Exhale, back to downward facing dog, bent knees. Use the legs, inhale like a wave, up and forward, upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Exhale, sink back. Find your embryo or child's pose to pause. Use this as an opportunity to reconnect with the breath. To breathe into the space where the blocks once were in the beginning of our time together. So then we're not just thinking top and bottom with breathing up and down, but we're thinking left and right, front and back, top and bottom. Inhabiting you in all of the ways that we can inhabit space. Good. If the knees are really wide here in child's pose, walk them back in towards each other and then come to sit on your shins. As you come to sit on your shins again, reach the arms up towards the sky. Good. And so we can stay here, right? We can stay here, we can press down into the top of the feet. We can lift the pubic bone and the sternum up towards the sky. So this is option 1. Option 2 is to bring the hands down to the ground, out behind you, press down into the tops of the feet. We're gonna have a little time to experiment. So hands back behind you, press into the tops of the feet, lift the pelvis up and forward, and lift the heart and its pubic bone to sternum that lengthens, but we're not squeezing our ass to lift our hips. It's the pubic bone coming up to drive ourselves up, okay? So that's option number 2. Option number 3 is to come back to sit on the heels, reach the arms up, and come into that same press back, lift the knees, and then lift pubic bone to sternum up and back. And if this is your first, second, third, millionth time lifting the knees up and off the floor, you might want to press a block underneath the knees to make sure that you can get out of your pelvis and lift up and out. This is what foam blocks are good for, Dave. A cork block would be like, good. Yeah, so the blocks underneath the knees and weight is in the heels and you're lifting up and out to reach up and back. So your option, right? Wherever you are, it's a back bend and you're coming up and out of the pelvis, and imagine you can inhabit a sphere. Good, I see some of you still experimenting with different variations. Wherever you are, imagine that you could fill up, especially that space in the back of the body where we're resting on blocks in the beginning of our time together. Breathe there. Good. Awesome. If the hips are lifted up towards the sky, very slowly lower them down. If the knees are lifted, slowly lower them down. Come forward into tabletop. If that felt really intense for you, come through a few rounds of cat and cow, shaking the hips side to side. Good. And then we'll meet in downward facing dog. Excuse me. Good. From here, step the right foot forward. When you step the right foot forward, left hip goes off to its own side. And we're going to take the right hand. We're going to reach it forward. Again, like we're going to shake someone's hand. Flip the palm up towards the sky like you're receiving a gift or a candy. Flex into the palm, flex into the wrist. Slowly bring the right heel of the right hand to line up with the right heel of the right foot. Yeah, snuggle it in there. If this feels like, already, you can place a block on its lowest height alongside the right foot and come into the same flipped wrist, but you have a little bit more height away from the floor. The fingertips can hang off the block if you do so. If you've got the hand on the floor, you got the hand on the floor. From here, step the left foot out to the left just a touch more, land the left heel down. Good, bring the left hand to the left hip. Recall Vashisthasana on a flipped wrist and bring your left hip over to its own side. So left hip comes off to its own side. That's what the hand is there to do. And then find the contact with right knee and right arm. And let that be what turns the chest to the left. Good. Some of you might want to bring the left hand onto the sacrum. I like to use left hand on the sacrum and the middle finger pointing towards the tailbone so I can get an idea of where I'm steering my pelvis in space. From here, imagine pubic bone to sternum allows you to get more spherical in the pose as the left hip goes off to the left. It feels a lot crunchier than everything else we've done, so the spherical occupation of your space might be smaller. If it feels okay, left arm up towards the sky, and then up and alongside the left ear, and imagine that the heart could lift up and over towards the right-hand side of the room. Good. Good. More weight into the back leg. Beautiful. Slowly look down. Plant the left hand down. Unstick the back heel. Unflip the right wrist. Okay, from here, I like to tent under right fingertips to give myself a little bit of support as I step back to a very small variation of plank pose. I turn my heels to the right. My knees are bent and I'm sinking my hips up and back. It's almost like I'm sort of getting prepped to sort of shoot myself in there. Right hand to the right hip. Keep the right hip moving towards the right as you lengthen the legs into Vashisthasana or plank pose. And notice the tendency to want to flip the hips up towards the sky. See if you can keep the right hip going off to the right. And imagine that right hip going off to the right could allow pubic bone to sternum to get longer. Good, lift the hips, come back, plank pose. Bend the knees, downward facing dog. Come forward, upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Exhale, bend knees, come up and back. Left foot forward. Step it on its own side. Good. And find first just your lunge, right? So come into the same work we've been doing, 10 and 2 with the hands, knee into the armpit possibly. Yeah. Step your left foot a little bit more onto your mat, Dave, so that your toes are facing the same direction as the mat. Yeah, like you're coming into a lunge. Yeah. There. And now reach the left hand forward, like you're going to shake someone's hand. And then flip the palm up towards the sky, receive the candy. Flip into the wrist and slowly bring the left hand alongside the left heel. So it's heel to heel alignment here. And a block next to the left foot can give you more space away from the floor if it feels like too much. Step the right foot off to the right, seal the back heel down. And when you seal the back heel down, bring the right hand to the right hip and bring the right hip off to its side. Good. Bend back into the left knee and find contact with left knee to left arm, and let that be what turns the torso up towards the sky. I say towards the sky for a reason. Reach the right arm up if it feels appropriate to you. Remember, right hand on sacrum is also a great way to go. It gives you a lot of feedback as to where the pelvis is. If the right hand reaches up, it comes up and over alongside the right ear. And imagine that you could spin up and over to the left without losing contact with the legs. And it's a lot here. It's a lot of sensation. So feel for that post-digestive process, right? The feeling after the pose. Take one more inhale. Exhale, right hand comes down. Unstick the back heel, unflip the left wrist. I like to tend onto left fingertips as I step the left foot to meet the right. Then into the knees, turn the hips to the side. Right, knees are bent and up and back until I lengthen my legs. I find my left hand on my left hip. And I resist the urge to lift my pubic bone up towards the sky, but instead, left hip comes off to its own side. It's hard to balance once you've gotten used to it externally rotating here. Good. From here, pick the hips up, plant the hands, downward facing dog. Bend knees, lifted hips. From here, come forward, upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Exhale, bend knees, come up and back. Breathe nice and full. Take a moment here in down dog to notice how you can fill up. How you can breathe more space into the body. Good. Very slowly come forward, plank pose. Land the knees down. Sink back, embryo pose. Hips towards heels. Knees stay on the same line. Hands meet the heels and fold. And here in your embryo pose, breathe against the thighs so that you're not just filling up the front of the body, but with that feedback, breathing into the thighs, you're breathing into the back of the body as well. So you can fill up everywhere. Good. Okay. From here, come to sit on your shins. You have blocks, bring them close by. Excuse me. I'll come to the center of my mat because there's better light. So just to know on where we're going, we can come back to the back bends that we did before that last sequence. So we've got those three options. I'll remind you what they are. You have arms lifted, lifting up and out of the pelvis, imagining from pubic bone to sternum, lift, lift, lift. Even tailbone to the back of the head, the occiput, it lifts as you arch up and back. So that's option number one. Option number two, hands back, pelvis lifts. Again, pubic bone to sternum and tailbone to back of the head, the occiput lifts. Option number three is knees lift. You're leaning back, and then you're lifting up and back from there. So that's sort of the ground floor of the ground floor work that we're doing. The next sort of phase in the work that we're doing, I'm gonna bring blocks alongside my feet. Historically, I hate camel pose, I hate Ustrasana. As a yoga teacher, I probably shouldn't admit that, but it's just a pose that has never felt nice in my body. All of this work is to get us to a place where it can feel nice in the body and you're supported. And you also have options if it doesn't feel nice in your body, right? I've always felt really pinched in my lower back. From here, I'm going to bring blocks to their highest height. And I want them to be right where my heels are. So the heels that we were cupping with our hands in embryo, right alongside there. Okay. So with hands on blocks, leave them alone. Come to stand on the shins. So right here, you'll notice blocks are right in line with my heels, right? Again, notice the tendency to be so far forward in the knees that you could lift your feet up nice and just free. Press more weight into the tops of the feet. From here, I'm going to reach back. I've got tons of height with the blocks here. I'm going to reach back and I'm going to dip my pelvis back. I like to have my fingertips facing forward because it helps me broaden my collarbones. Good. So from here, we have a little play with the pelvis. Doesn't feel like too much of my lower back. From here, right, without shoving my pelvis forward, I want to lift up and out, lift up and out, lift up and out. It looks really extreme because I've got a loose shirt on. But as you lift up and out of the pelvis, you find more weight in the tops of the feet. And there's a lot of stuff in our yoga vernacular as teachers with stacking the hips above the knees. I really don't think that's necessary here. I think a little bit of play in the pelvis and more work in the legs is going to be more beneficial for the back bend. If you feel like you have space, you can bring the blocks down to a lower height. Be wary of just pelvis thrusting, right? Use the legs, more weight into the tops of the feet. If you'd like to explore with lifting one hand up, see if you can inhabit more space, sweep the arm back, maybe flip the fingertips, sweep the other arm up, reach up and back, flip the fingertips, right? All places to explore. Press down into the tops of the feet, slowly sink the hips back, come to sit on the heels. Resist the urge to fold and instead just sit straight up with the spine aligned, right center of the pelvis to center of the rib cage. From your right butt bone, draw a line to your left nipple. And from your left butt bone, draw a line to your right nipple. And imagine that you could inhabit the volume of your torso more here. And then notice how wide you're breathing. Right? It's not just up or down, it's up and down. It's not just forward and backward, but it's forward and backward. And it's not left or right, it's left and right. Good. From here, you're just going to come into another exploration of your camel pose or your back bend, anything that led up to camel, right? If that felt like too much in the spine and the lower back, then you come into a place where you can explore the back bend with less compression. If that felt nice, you can come back into it with the blocks at any height and explore, or you can bring the blocks down to their lowest height. If you feel really open and not crunchy at all, maybe hands cupping on the heels and you lift up, right? And these are all just options. Nothing is a requirement. Remember, the work is in the legs to grow the spine up and out of the pelvis. So we can't back bend properly, safely without the power of the legs, but more weight in the tops of the feet, less weight in the knees. Good variation, Mom. Nice, rocks. Now imagine tailbone to the back of the head gets long as well. Yeah. Good. Again, breath is spherical. Here you go, Dave. And remember, it's not just pressing the pelvis forward, it's the spine growing up and out of the pelvis. Good. Wherever you are, you'll slowly sit your hips back towards the heels. Resist the urge to move your spine in the opposite direction right away. Just come to sit. Feel center of the pelvis, line up with center of the rib cage. Breathe in all directions. Good. Okay. From here, come sink your hips to the side. And slowly come down onto your back. Draw the knees into the chest as you go. So technically, because we have flexion in the hips, this counts as a forward fold. If this doesn't feel like enough of a release for you, maybe you can lengthen the legs, pull the calves down. Maybe knees come closer to the armpits, right? Not a full plow pose, but somewhere in between. And this fully counts as a forward fold. Broaden the collarbones, bend of the knees. Maybe you come onto the heels. If you'd like to come into happy baby, drawing the knees out wide, you may do so. Right? Let yourself explore sensation. Resist the urge to feel like you need to come into a full, quote unquote, yoga pose, but instead just explore what feels nice, what doesn't. These are the last final movements before you come down into your final shavasana, your final resting place from practice. So move as you need to move. And once you're done with those final movements, you'll bring your legs to a place that is most comfortable for you. You'll start to settle into your restful place, your shavasana. Create conditions for comfort in the same way that you create conditions for work, for effort, for productivity. Once you're there, allow the eyes to close. With eyes closed, soften the place between the brows. Feel the tongue slack. Recall the place where the blocks were at the beginning of our time together, and imagine that you can sink that part of the spine, that part of the chest into the ground. Release any last gripping, holding, or resistance here. If the mind is active, you can count backwards on your exhales from 27. If you lose count, start again. Invite your awareness back into your body. Start to breathe a bit deeper and longer, filling up the volume of your torso. Allow movement to start in fingers and toes. If anything feels natural or organic for you, as you come out of your Shavasana and into a seat, you may do so. Let the face remain soft. Perhaps the eyes stay closed. And once you find yourself in your seat, again, map the pelvis and the rib cage so that you have space, right? That you find not just top and bottom, right? Perineum, pelvic floor to crown of the head, but you feel left and right, front and back, top and bottom. Gently bring the hands to touch in front of the heart. Bow the gaze down over fingertips in deep gratitude to you for the ability, the willingness, the privilege to practice in this way. Draw the thumb knuckles to the third eye center, lift the head up slightly. And whether you're live, you're joining the recording, let's take one deep breath in together as a crew. And thank you. Namaste. Thank you, guys. I will come unmute you if you have any questions.